Hey, podcasters, welcome to the Shaun Herr Show, where we learn how to break the slimming cycle by mastering your mind, meals, and movement, helping you finally achieve a balanced lifestyle and long-lasting results. In today's episode, I'm interviewing Al Kavadlo, an expert calisthenics practitioner who travels the world teaching others how to build a strong body and do amazing things with it, just by using their own body, no equipment needed, except for maybe a pull-up bar and the odd gymnastic ring or parallel. I started following Al way back at the start of my own health and fitness journey when me and my housemate Nat would watch YouTube videos, learn how to get strong with the minimal equipment we had, and get to work doing rounds of pull-ups and push-ups, squats and leg raises. Al's YouTube videos were one of the main things we used to guide our workouts, to show us how to progress, so it's an absolute honour to have Al on the podcast. I was actually lucky enough to meet not just Al, but also his brother Danny and his wife Grace on the Progressive Calisthenics Certification a few years back. That's the thing Al goes around the world teaching. In the interview, we touch on how having a health-focused family makes your journey that bit easier, and also how things have changed since Al's family got a little bit bigger with the birth of his daughter last year. Keep an eye out for Al's top tip for dads. Oh, by the way, I messed up the technical side at the start of the interview again. So I had to chop about 5 minutes out because you couldn't hear Al at all. But hopefully it doesn't sound too disjointed, and don't worry, I'm pretty sure I've come across every possible technical issue by this point, so we should be smooth sailing from here. Maybe. Be sure to let me know what little nuggets you get from this interview, and without further ado, let's get into it. Okay then, Al, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me. Hey.
I'm really glad to have you. It's an honor because I've been following you since I was in uni, like my first year of uni when I really started getting into this. And I was following your YouTube channel way back. So that must have been about 10 years ago now. So you've obviously done a lot since then. In one of your books, I wrote this down before, I think it was the We're Working Out book. And in that, I think you talked about your transition from, like most people, getting into training, doing weightlifting, a lot of deadlifts and everything else, and then you sort of transitioned in to calisthenics for one reason or another. Can you tell us a little bit about how you made that transition? What made you make that jump?
It wasn't like I woke up one day and decided, okay, I'm just going to do calisthenics now.
Mm-hmm.
It was a gradual transition. A handstand push-up maybe replaced a military barbell press. And, one-legged squats started to replace some of my weight training leg exercises. And when I wanted to learn the muscle up and I wanted to learn the human flag, a lot of the other stuff I was doing with weights, I just had to put it aside because there's only so much you could do at once. And working on a muscle up, working on a human flag, those are really taxing endeavors.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just this gradual transition over time, started to move away from weights, started to move more into calisthenics. It was really just about following my own curiosities. And before I knew it, I was just doing calisthenics.
Yeah. So is that all you do now then? You just
Pretty
calisthenics?
much. Every once in a while, people love to box things into categories like Al's only a calisthenics guy, but every once in a while I'll still pick up a weight. I have clients that I train who occasionally want to do weights. I had a client recently who I had done a lot of calisthenics with for a long time. And she said, I'm kind of curious to try some stuff with kettlebells. And I have a kettlebell certification. Mm-hmm. I've swung kettlebells a lot over the years and familiar with the basics. So I was able to teach her some stuff with that. So it's not quite as black and white as that. But that's kind of become my main bag. It's what I enjoy most in my own training. And it's what I've become known for. So to a certain extent, once people expect something from you, you want to be able to deliver in that modality. So it's made me want to continue to pursue calisthenics.
Yeah. And I think
weight training is great. I just need to be very clear about that. People sometimes misunderstand and think, oh, Al says weights are no good. Weights are great. It's just not exactly my thing right now.
Yeah, that's a really important thing as well, like to mention that, because a lot of people, like I said, when you're trying to explain to a client, for example, that calisthenics is just a different way of getting stronger. One thing I always try and get across to people is, as much as you're in the gym and everything, that's cool, but what I really want you to find is the way of exercising that you just love doing. And obviously for you, that's turned out to be calisthenics. So you do that more than you'll do anything else. And your clients, is is that something that they found for themselves, that calisthenics is just a thing they love doing? Or do some of your clients, have they found other things and they found that strength training with their body weight helps those other things? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I've definitely had some clients over the years who have sought me out specifically because they knew me as a calisthenics expert and that's what they wanted to practice. But I've also had other clients who just wanted to get in better shape, and for whatever reason, they were referred to me by a friend or someone else, and they weren't necessarily interested in calisthenics.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, I don't necessarily try to impose it on someone. Like I said, if I have someone who asks me, oh, can we try this exercise with a weight or with a machine or with anything? I'm pretty familiar with most of what there is to do in the world of strength training. And obviously, if it's something I'm unfamiliar with, I'm not going to try to teach it to somebody. But I've been a fitness trainer for 17 years, and I spent a lot of time in gyms over that time. So I know how to use the equipment. And I
Yeah.
want people to decide for themselves. I don't want
Hmm.
to tell them, oh, no, I don't like that exercise, so you're not going to do it. If ultimately they wind up agreeing with me and saying, oh, what's that wobble board thing? Let me try it. And they do it and they say, hey, you know what? This is kind of whack. I'm like, yeah, it's not my thing either. But,
Hmm.
if you'd been into it, cool, we could have done that.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
all good. Like you said,
yeah.
you got to make it an enjoyable experience for people. I think sometimes coaches and trainers forget that that's a big part of what we do is it's
Hmm.
not just about the best program to maximize results and be as absolutely as efficient as possible, but you've got to actually get it so people will see the process through to the end. And if they're
Hmm.
miserable, that won't happen.
Yeah, yeah, and that's the key thing, isn't it? If you don't enjoy the program, you're not going to do the program. So what's the
Yeah,
point of setting something like that in the first place?
precisely.
Yeah. Um, just referring back to the PCC again, because I did the one in New York,
The
and I did
Progressive
that because,
Calisthenics Certification, in case
yeah,
anyone's
yeah,
wondering what it stands
yeah, yeah,
for.
just in case. When I came to do that course, I did the one in New York because I thought, hey, that's where I was from. Why not? I'll make a trip of it. Um, and so then I was lucky enough to have Danny, your brother, and Grace, your wife, on that same course.
That was an
And
epic weekend.
yeah, so that was awesome. And something I wanted to ask about that is obviously, you'll often say to clients or you'll advise people to try and build an environment that
Hmm.
supports the goals that they've got. If you're surrounded by people who are eating cake all the time, who don't work out, you're going to be more likely to eat cake and not work out. So
Yeah,
do you find that having, Danny and Grace around you and obviously all the other people around you within what you do helps you to stay on track with the things that you do? If you don't feel like training sometimes,
definitely.
things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I try to, like you said, I try to surround myself with people who embody the traits that I want to have myself because they're good influences. And yeah, my clients too, in their own way, hold me accountable because I want to lead by example.
Yeah.
So, and not just my personal training clients or the people who come to my workshops, but even people on social media, just, putting a
Hmm.
post up and seeing people liking it and getting comments from people, it makes you want to continue to uphold the expectation that they have for you.
Yeah.
So you think, wow, people are turning to me for inspiration. I gotta fucking work out.
Yeah. Yeah. You gotta keep things up for the people watching as well.
Yeah.
And you recently, I can't remember exactly how recently, but you recently became a dad.
Yeah, my little girl, she's just turned 1 a couple weeks ago.
Oh, right, okay, cool. So how's that changed things for you? Because we see all the time about women posting about their experience of their pregnancy and trying to get their post-pregnancy body back and stuff. But obviously, for the dads out there as well,
Yeah.
it's a big change too. So how have you kind of found things have changed?
Well, to be clear, it's much, much harder for the woman than for
Oh
the
yeah,
guy. Because she actually has to gain all that weight and get
yeah,
pregnant and put her body through all that trauma. All we have to do is be around someone who's gaining weight and eating a lot,
yeah.
which can be challenging. Like you said, if you're around someone who's eating a lot, you're going to want to eat more. So I think I did gain a little bit of weight while my
Okay.
wife was pregnant, just because we had so much food around and I was cooking so much for her. But I really don't think that it has made staying fit that much more difficult for me.
Hmm.
I've been doing exercise as part of my lifestyle for so long. Now, I'm 40 years old. I started working out when I was 13. It's
Yeah.
just so ingrained into who I am that I don't think there's much that could happen in my life that would make me not keep it up. I still shower every day and I still brush my teeth every day too. And it's one of
Yeah.
those things that I see as non-negotiable as those things are. And yeah, occasionally you miss a shower or whatever, but occasionally you miss a workout. But it's not the type of thing that you're going to look back and say, wow, it's been 3 weeks since I showered. I really need to do that soon. Maybe I'll do it tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Got you.
that said, it's definitely challenging being a dad. It's certainly made working a lot harder because I just have so much less time. And that's, there's so many things in life that you know theoretically what you think it's going to be like, and oh, it's going to be harder. I'm going to have less time. But then when you're actually living it, you're like, wow, this is even crazier than I thought it would be.
Yeah. Have you got
But it's
any?
great. It's wonderful. I love it.
Yeah, of course. And do you have any little bits of advice that you found, helps with kind of that work life shift that's obviously happened for any other
Wake
dads
up
listening?
really early. That's my dad tip. Get
Okay.
up before everyone else does, because that's your time to try to be productive, to try to work out, to try to get work done that you can't get done if your wife and kid are up and you need to give them attention.
Yeah.
Get it done early, because then if not, the day might slip away. And shit, even if you don't have a kid, that's good advice. That's something that
Yeah.
I've always done, but it's something that I do even more now.
Okay. Yeah. Wonderful. So for any dads listening, wake up earlier. Something I just wrote down then as well, that I remembered is recently on your posts, you've been talking about the shoes that you wear.
Yeah.
And I don't know if we have the same brand over here, but we have similar things. But it's something that's becoming more and more prominent, and more people are kind of coming to see, oh, actually, this makes a big difference. Maybe, I should do this as well. And then when somebody else tries it, they feel the difference. And that's obviously barefoot shoes, barefoot training, and spending more time without all the padding under your feet.
Yeah.
And so,
Mhm.
one, what were you going to say?
No, I was going to jump in and
Yeah,
give a
yeah,
plug to Zero Shoes.
yeah, do it.
That I've been working with them for a long time. They make what I think are the best sneakers for running, working out, whatever you're into. They're really comfortable. And like you said, so much conventional footwear is overly padded, overly cushioned, not really shaped the way people's feet are shaped.
Hmm.
And I think Zero Shoes and other brands as well that provide more of a minimalist type of offering are much better shoes for everyday life and exercise.
Yeah.
Zero with an X, if anyone's looking to find them.
Yeah, and so I assume like you, like most people, probably before you discovered Zero and barefoot shoes, just wore regular trainers, regular sneakers
Yeah,
as well.
I think a lot of people, the book Born to Run was an
Yeah,
eye
good
opener,
book.
and
Yeah.
I was really into running at that time, which
Uh-huh.
people are sometimes surprised to hear that. And then I remind them, hey, running is sort of a body weight exercise too.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of like the most essential body weight exercise, the most primitive one in a lot of ways. But
Yeah.
I digress. I was really into running at that time, and a lot of people were recommending that book to me, and I read it, and I thought it was a great book. And that book was the first thing that I read that kind of put out there what we were just talking about, this idea that a lot of the shoes that people are wearing maybe aren't designed for your feet. And
Hmm.
the author of that book, for anyone who's not familiar with it, spent some time with a native tribe of people, I think in Mexico,
Yeah.
who ran in very, very thin rubber sandals, and they were really fast, and they were all really good runners, and none of them had knee problems or foot pain or any of the stuff that
Yeah. Yeah.
Western people get when they run long distance. And he hypothesized the shoes were a big part of that.
Hmm.
So after I read that book, I started seeking out some minimalist options. And at the time, the only brand that I was aware of was a brand, Vibram or Vibram. The
Yeah. The
looked
five
like gloves
fingers.
for your feet.
Yeah.
The five finger was really hot. And I remember trying those on. I just didn't like the feel
Mm.
of having my toes each encapsulated like
Yeah.
that by a piece of rubber. But I kept looking around, and not very long after that, I found Zero Shoes. And at the time, their offering was really, really, really simple. It was just basically like what is talked about in Born to Run, what they call a horache, which is
Hmm.
just a piece of rubber with a string that goes around your foot.
Yeah.
But then over the years, they've gotten a little bit more technical with their footwear, and I think they've improved the design quite a bit because those early ones did leave a bit to be desired.
Yeah. And so with you being really into running at the time that you sort of started wearing barefoot
Mhm.
shoes as opposed to regular conventional shoes, did you notice a difference for yourself?
Yeah, well, I think everybody in the beginning, when you start running barefoot, you realize that you've been really slamming your feet down harder than you
Hmm.
thought, and you
Yeah.
really feel the impact a lot more. So there's a little bit of a relearning process of figuring out how not to do that,
Yeah.
which I think ultimately makes for a better running experience.
Yeah. Okay. Good. So Zero with an X if anyone wants to check them out
Yes,
over
sir.
in the US at least, and
I think you can get them
possibly if you've
shipped
got them as
internationally.
well.
You probably have to pay a few extra dollars or pounds, as it were, for that. But I
Yeah.
think they
Yeah.
ship in the UK.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Cool. So what's next for you then? What's in the pipeline? Obviously, you've recently started your podcast
I've
as
got a
well.
podcast myself now, and I'm actually getting on a plane later today to fly to
Okay.
California to teach a workshop, the
Yeah.
PCC again, the Progressive Calisthenics Certification. So we're still doing that. We've been going on for almost 7 years now. It kind of blows my mind sometimes to think about when we started this thing, how much, how many other things have come and gone since then, and we're still going strong, still certifying new trainers, still spreading the word. Like you said, a lot of people still don't know what calisthenics is. I
Yeah.
think we've helped spread the word, and I think people like yourself and a lot of other bloggers and a lot of other podcasters are getting the word out there, but we're still kind of on the fringes. So
Hmm.
I want to keep doing what I've been doing, which is trumpeting my love of calisthenics and getting the message out there to as many people as possible.
Yeah. Yeah. Amazing. And I think you and Danny recently brought out another book as well.
Yeah, we came out with a book called Next Level Strength, which is about as equipment based as we get. It uses
Yeah.
gymnastics rings and parallelte bars, which is basically just push up handles.
Yeah.
So uh, those were kind of the two pieces of apparatus in the calisthenics world we hadn't really addressed yet. We'd mostly been focused on the pull-up bar and the
Hmm.
dip bars and the various bars. So we're getting a little bit into the esoteric with this one. But it was something a lot of people had asked for. It was something, like I said earlier, I've always followed my own interests and my own curiosities. It was something
Hmm.
that I started to want to use more in my own training. And what happens a lot of the time in my career is there's been something that I've been interested in myself, and I start seeking out as much information as I can find about it. Ultimately, I
Hmm.
find that there isn't a resource that I feel is satisfactory. And as I start to acquire knowledge from my own experience and from various other resources and people I talk to, I start to think, wait a minute, I can now create that resource that I was seeking when
Yeah.
this began. So that's what we tried to do with Next Level Strength was make the manual that we were essentially looking for when we wanted to get more into that type of training.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. It's a great way of looking at it as well. I like that.
Thanks. Yeah,
Yeah.
and as far as to go back to what you said a minute ago about, what's next for me, if I could keep doing what I'm doing indefinitely, I'd be grateful. I got a
Yeah.
good life. I got, like you said, a good family. I got a great career. And things change in the world quickly. And, every day there's new people popping up in the blogosphere, new certifications coming up, new products, new online courses. So, you said at the beginning of this interview that, oh, I remember you from 10 years ago when I was a kid. I want the kids now to still know
Yeah.
who I am, not just people who remember me from 10 years ago. So
Yeah.
that's where I'm at.
Yeah. Ah, nice. To bring it back then again to where things started for you, we're working out the Zen approach to everyday fitness as the subtitle, yeah?
Yes,
So
sir.
what was the kind of sort of the initial message you wanted to get out with that? Because I remember reading that one and thinking there's a lot of good stuff in here.
Thank you. Well, that was the first book that I wrote, and that was the one I mentioned earlier. I think that I got into it because I wanted to write a book, and I had a friend who said, "Oh, if you want to write a book, you should start a blog." So that was the
Hmm.
book that I wanted to write. And so much of the fitness world, and I think it's a good thing that we're starting to trend away from this a little bit. But this was 10 years ago that I published that book. And at that time, I really felt like so much emphasis was on outcome, outcome, goals, goals. And so
Hmm.
little was talked about the actual day-to-day process of doing the thing.
Yeah.
And like you were saying earlier, if people don't actually do the program, it doesn't matter how good the program is. So that was really the message I was trying to convey is find something you like, stick to it. And even when the going gets tough, I'm offering strategies that I think could be applied to any sort of modality, rather than just saying, okay, here's an exact program, do it exactly like it's written, which I have done in subsequent books because people want that. What I was trying to say in that book was I was trying to empower people. You can do whatever you want if you follow this general overlying principle. But like I alluded to, I came to find that ultimately, if you want to sell books, just give people a damn program. That's what they want.
Yeah, it's a hard one, isn't it? This is something me and Steve just talked about yesterday. You know, there's the stuff that people need to do, and then there's so much stuff that people just want to buy, and what people need and what they want to buy often aren't the same thing. And so
Yeah.
it's finding those bridges, giving them the first one, and then give them a little jump to hop to the one that they actually need. And I guess that's what you can do through your podcast and your books and everything else.
You know, that first book, I'm really proud of it.
Hmm.
And if I hadn't written it, it wouldn't have set me up to do so many other things that I've done since. But I really feel like I didn't really get it right until a book that I wrote with my brother Danny a couple of years ago called Get Strong.
Okay.
And I feel like that was the first book that either of us did. And we talked about this a lot. And we talked about it on one of my podcasts, in fact, where we felt like we found that balance that you were just alluding to between giving people what they want, which is a very specific program with everything clearly spelled out to the letter, and yet also including some essays and supplemental material to try to guide people through the process a little more, give them some motivation, give them some inspiration, give them some accountability, give them some ideas for how to deal with the inevitable roadblocks and plateaus that they may
Yeah.
experience along the way, and set it up all in a way that encourages the person to see it through to the end by making there be almost like a little game of levels to jump through and ways of
Yeah.
assessing yourself. And I really feel like with that book, we could have, we couldn't have done that book without having done so many other books first and
Hmm.
getting feedback from people and reevaluating ourselves. Because whenever you create something, you really can't see it objectively until you look back at it many months later.
Yeah.
And after going through that process so many times, I really feel like we nailed it with Get Strong. And then
Good.
the subsequent one, Next Level Strength, we pretty much tried to follow a similar format because we
Uh-huh.
felt like this is the format. And
Yeah,
I feel
yeah.
like we did a very good job with that one as well. Not to toot my own horn too much.
Yeah, yeah. Well, to keep tooting that horn, where can people get those books from?
Someone's got to toot that horn, right? The publisher is Dragon Door Publications, so you can buy them directly from Dragon Door's website. If you go to my website, alkavadlo.com,
Uh-huh.
there's links to buy my books there as well.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
And
I'll
they're on
put all the
Amazon.
links to those.
Everybody just buys everything on Amazon now anyway, right? Just go on
Yeah.
Amazon.
Yeah, I'll put links to all of them in the description for the video and the show notes and everything as well, so people can find all that.
Excellent.
Um, and another thing I want to link people to, obviously, is your podcast.
Yeah,
So,
so I started podcasting this year, and you can find those on iTunes or wherever you stream podcasts. One nice thing about being Al Kavadlo, me, is that I have a very unique name.
yeah,
So if you go into iTunes and you can spell my name correctly, Kavadlo, it's going to know that you're looking for my podcast,
yeah.
and hopefully you are looking for it.
Okay, cool. Obviously, I'll send people over to that one as well.
Thank you.
And I guess one more question before we
Yeah.
wrap up, that I've been asking everybody that I interview for the past couple
Mhm.
is I think you'll get a really good, I think you'll have a really good answer for this. If you could have a billboard and put it anywhere
Hmm.
for hundreds, thousands of people to see, what would you put on that billboard?
Well, I'd probably want to keep it simple.
Uh-huh.
I guess I would want to promote exercise, and I'd want to promote myself. I mean, right? A billboard that all those people are going to see. I'd want them to know that, hey, 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 we're working out.
Yeah.
So maybe it would just say, hey, 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 we're working out. Have my website on there and a picture of me doing a human flag or something cool like that.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's an incredibly self-centered, egomaniacal answer. If you were looking that I was going to put some message about world peace or something. But if I have an opportunity to get that many eyes on a billboard, I'm promoting me.
Yeah, I guess like you said, at the end of the day, you got to toot that horn, and all those things you're tooting the horn for are going to help people anyway. So why not?
Yeah, just to reiterate that point, I meet a lot of young trainers and fitness professionals, aspiring fitness professionals, who say
Hmm.
things to me like, Al, I just want to train people. I don't want to have to sell anything.
Yeah,
And I think that that is a very, very naive attitude. Everyone's always selling something, even if you don't know it.
yeah.
So embrace it. And what better a product than yourself?
Hmm.
What could I possibly believe in more than my own ability to help others get in great shape? Because I've done it, I've seen how good people feel afterwards, and I want to
Yeah,
make as many people as possible have that experience and feel better and get stronger.
yeah. It's a very good point. Hopefully, anyone listening who's a trainer gets that as well, because that's something I've seen a lot of trainers struggle with too. The selling part of it, definitely.
Yeah, if you're afraid to sell, then does that mean you don't think you're a good trainer? If you're a great trainer and you really think if you get in front of this person and you spend some time with them, you can affect profound change on their health and their quality of life. Wouldn't you want them to take advantage of that opportunity?
100%.
Well, I'm glad you get it, my friend. It's been a pleasure chatting with you.
Yeah, you too. Well, thanks for being on the show.
Very good. Thanks for having me.
Did you pick up on Al's top tip for dads? You probably did, seeing as I repeated it to make sure you didn't. But what else did you pick up on? What else from mine and Al's little conversation piqued your interest and switched on a light bulb? Let me know at info@shaunherr.co.uk. If you want to check out Al's YouTube channel or his books, or maybe even jump onto a Progressive Calisthenics Certification course, links to all of those will be in the show notes. Before we go, if you like this episode, please do leave a like and a comment and share it with your friends if you're watching on Facebook. And if you're watching on YouTube, it'd be great if you could click the like button, drop a comment and subscribe to the channel. And of course, for my podcast listeners, make sure you subscribe to the podcast. And if you haven't already, please do leave a review on iTunes or whatever platform you're listening on. All those things help boost the channel in people's search results and news feeds and all that stuff, so the podcast reaches more people and I get to help more people learn good stuff. Thanks for tuning into this episode, and I'll see you in the next one.